Hello everybody. Today I would like to show you guys how to use the focus bracketing feature on the Canon EOS RP. Okay. Normally that feature is turned off, inactive until you activate it through the menu. So let's see how we do that. Okay, so we press the menu button, and I already have it stored in my menu, but I will show you where you find it. Okay, so actually we go all the ways to the red area. Okay, and it's going to be on number 5. That's where you find it. Okay, as default is disabled. So you go into the menu and you turn it on. Now this thing is going to remember the number of shots that you previously set it. The number of shots can go all the way from 1 to 999. Okay, and it's kind of you kind of have to experiment with it to really know how many number of shots that you would need. Okay, the idea of this uh, feature is that the camera is going to focus from the very closest object, right? And it goes all the ways to infinity. Okay? And depending on the depth of field that you have by setting the aperture and also the distance from your camera to the object, it will affect the number of shots. Okay, the good news that this thing is going, even though when you set it to 999 and you're not using it, I mean not, and the camera doesn't need it, it will stop before it reach 999. Okay, so that's a good news. So when in doubt, you increase it up more than you think you need. Okay, so in this case, I think I need about 20, and I will explain to you a little further. So I'm going to set this at 20 instead of going to 999 because the camera doesn't really guess correctly all the time. So it just wasted a lot of pictures that you don't really need. Okay, now the focus increment is basically, it tells you how wide does it go, in between shots. Variation, so you can kind of extend the distance a little bit from default. And what is default anyway? So as I mentioned, this thing does kind of know, or at least guess, what your depth of field is going to be based on the aperture and also the distance from the camera, which it doesn't really know, but mostly from the aperture. And from there, it will guess, and it varies depending on what you want set, right? So so in this case, okay, normally the default is 4, and I think that's fine for most cases. You can vary that depending on the pictures, uh, to fine tune it. But I think I got good success just staying at the default there. Now exposure smoothing, it basically control, the exposure for you so that all of the shots came out kind of the same. In my experience, it doesn't really matter that much. So, and also nothing that post processing cannot fix. So I would suggest that you disable that. Okay, so now we have it set up. Now let's go get out of the menu. Now what I did for this picture, It's like, remember, this thing is going to start from the beginning, okay? And it goes all the way from the beginning to the back. So you may want to help it here. And I think it will try to do it by itself, but I think you will help it tremendously by focusing first on the very forward one that you're interested in keeping, okay? So after I focus it there, I'm going to recompose so that I get. Now, because when we do the focus bracketing, we are really interested in uh, keeping everything in focus, right? So we want to maximize our depth of field. So it make a lot of sense if you want to maximize um, your aperture, right? So so if I want to maximize it, I would do like say f8, right? Um, Now, and of course, I'm gonna adjust the speed appropriately because I'm on a tripod. I wanted my ISO to be low as well, depending on. Okay, so then I have to kind of expand my shutter speed out so that I can, okay, so I can have a proper exposure like that. Okay, now I got the focus that I want. Now, what you are looking at is like you can see, wow, even f8, the depth of field is terrible because you can't even see the dot. But actually, keep in mind that the Canon camera, I think Sony will show you the actual depth of field, but that's the only camera, mirrorless camera I know that does that. Maybe other manufacturer. I only kind of am familiar with Nikon, Canon, and Sony. And I know that Sony tells you the true depth of field. Now the Nikon and the Canon doesn't. So it always show you at the widest aperture for your lens. So in this case, my lens is a f1.4. So what you're looking at is a depth of field at 1.4. Of course, I'm setting it at f8. Okay, so now for the Canon camera, this one, the RP, in order for you to view it, you have to program a button so that you can view depth of field. I already kind of programmed a button, so I'm gonna press it to show you the true depth of field. So see when you press that, the true depth of field is shown, and the two dogs on the left is still kind of blurry, but not as bad as that, right? That is at 1.4. That is at f8. Okay, and if you look at this, the ruler there, you can tell that okay at f8, my depth of field is about 1.5 inch or something, based on what is blurry and what's not. So, and the area of interest that I'm interested in is around 12 inch, maybe 20 inch maximum. So with 1.5, I would expect it to be around 20 shots. And that's why I chose 20 shots before. Now, if you let the camera do it, it'll try to go all the way in the back. It might be 30, 40 pictures, but even if you set it at 999, it will stop around 40, 50 pictures, something like that. Okay, so now we are going to take a picture, and you will observe that the camera is going to take 20 shots. Each time it will vary the distance. You know, it go back to infinity there. So we got 5 more to go. 2, 1, 0. Okay, so there. So that's how it works. It goes from the closest to the farthest to infinity, and it will stop. and it depends on the depth of field for your condition, right? Depth of field depends on aperture, the focal length, as well as the distance from the camera to the subject. So those are the three factors that made up. So, so in this case, I pressed the depth of field button, and that's the depth of field. Now it had shifted the point of focus all the way back. That's why it's still kind of blurry, but okay. So now let's view it. Okay. I guess that's the first shot. Okay. Second shot, as you can see that it moves the point of focus slightly back until now the third dog on the left is kind of getting in focus now. And as you can see that the further I move, the further back is more in focus until like now is completely out of focus. So my guess about 20 was kind of accurate. Now if you let the camera go, as I mentioned, it probably will stop somewhere around here, or maybe my guess would be around 30. It'll stop. But then you in post processing you kind of have to throw out the ones that are completely blurry just to save processing power. But basically that is how it works, right? So now if you go back to the menu, you as you can see that it stays enabled. There's no way to turn it off. Now if you turn off the camera, the next time you turn it back on, it will reset to that, and that's what I saw. But here, if you don't want to do it again, you got to remember to go back there and disable it. Otherwise it's going to do that to you again, right? So remember that. With that, I thank you for watching. I hope that this thing helps you a little bit, and we'll see you later.